What's going on, guys? This is Tech Habit Weekly, episode 29 for September 9th, 2014. And as I'm sure you guys have guessed, this is going to be like an all Apple episode because today, just a few hours ago, Apple got off the stage over in Cupertino, California with their huge iPhone 6 slash what actually came to be true iWatch announcements. So we have a lot of stuff here to talk about today. Three main things, each of which is pretty jam-packed. So of course, with me as usual is Mr. Casey Nightmare himself in the flesh, Mr. Dante Harris. So he's going to be walking through these stories with me. And so without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and hop right in. We're going to go in the order that the keynote actually unfolded. So we're going to be talking about the new iPhones first. So Dante, what exactly was announced today on the iPhone front?
I think the biggest announcement that was actually confirmed with the iPhones are the two different sizes that everybody has speculated this entire time. And honestly, in a certain respect, it kind of takes away from it because there was so much speculation and the exact sizes of the phones actually did come out. So this is going to be a 4.7-inch iPhone 6 and a 5.5-inch iPhone 6 Plus. Now, one question, Bob. Do you feel that Apple may be going away from maybe the S series like we've seen with the 4S, the 3GS, the 4S, and of course the 5S that we currently have? Do you think they're going away from that and maybe going to maybe Plus models, or do you think that's just an adaptation that they're going to have with size?
It's very possible because as I noticed today, they did have some naming changes. We started seeing Apple X instead of iX, like the whole Apple Pay thing not being iPay. So I think this is going to be an event where we do see kind of a naming scheme or like a naming convention change. So going from a 5S to a 6 Plus or a 7 Plus. But this is also, I mean, they have like a TikTok cycle. So maybe who knows? Maybe a year from now, we'll see an iPhone 6S Plus. It's kind of hard to say, but like I said, the rumors did leak, and Apple just kind of plays off that now. I mean, right in the keynote, we're like, you guys already knew this. They even said that just right out in the open there, because we all know that stuff is so hard to control nowadays because Apple is all over the place. Their supply chain has so many steps between final where the product ends up and is being put together and the drawing board. There's so many things in between that it can get leaked, so it's just impossible to control. So we all did kind of know that. But in terms of features, like you said, we do have the new screen sizes, both 4.7 and 5.5. I was always pretty skeptical of the 5.5, but after what we've seen today, Dante, based on what you said in the past, maybe even last episode, are you still leaning more towards the 4.7 model or the 5.5?
Man, my opinion has completely changed over the features of this, and I'm just going to give you guys kind of a rundown of what some of the features are in between the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus. One thing that they both sport is seamless, continuous design with no distinct edges in between the screen. New Retina HD screens, and also uses the full RGB wide color gamut, which is really, really nice. And of course, the different resolutions of these. On the iPhone 6, we're going to be sporting a 1334 by 750 display and a whopping 1920 by 1080 HD Retina display on the iPhone 6 Plus. And it's going to be really, really nice. I mean, I like the fact that there's a new landscape view for the iPhone 6 Plus. It's actually powered by the new A8 processors that they're going to be having. And it's going to be actually 25% faster processing and 50% faster in the graphics. One other huge deal is going to be voice over LTE. Some of you guys that maybe have digital subscriber lines, through AT&T or something, notice that they use like a voice over IP service. Well, this is basically the same deal with voice over LTE. And also the new 802.11 AC makes your Wi-Fi bands actually 3 times faster than the iPhone 5S. So it's really, really nice. And it actually supports over 200 LTE customers, including all 3 that are currently in China. Also, 8 megapixel iSight camera with, I know people probably get stuck on the whole 8 megapixel thing, but it's the optics in these cameras that actually make it so impressive. And then also you can do even slow motion at 120 frames or 240 frames a second.
Crazy.
Which is super slow if you actually know how that is. One other thing is kind of a dark horse in between all this is there's no 32 gig model for any one of those phones. Now, Bob, do you think that they're just going to completely discontinue the 32 gigabyte line, or was this something, that they just had to make in between maybe a cheaper price point versus that premium, where there's no real in between? Because I have a 32 gig iPhone 5S and I love it. And I was actually looking forward to seeing a 32 gig model of the iPhone 6 or iPhone 6 Plus. What do you think is happening here?
It's really hard to say whether or not they're going to just completely axe it forever, but I think that they will, only because I think a lot of people that would go for, a 16 gigabyte model, I mean, because they kind of had a choice here, because they knew that there's people that want more than 64 gigabytes, and I'm sure they didn't want to have four models, a 16, 32, 64, and 128. So they had to drop one of them. But there's a lot of people that don't need up to 32 gigabytes on their phone. So rather than start the small, like, the cheapest phone at the same price, having double the storage, they can manufacture it a lot cheaper if they continue with 16 gigabytes. Because there's a lot of users out there that just rely maybe on PhotoStream, on iTunes Match, that don't need to have a lot of storage space locally on their phone. Just for making calls and iMessages and stuff, they don't need that space. So Apple can continue, and they can save money by continuing the 16 gigabyte model, discontinuing kind of that middle ground, and instead taking the loss on the next model up. Because there's a lot of people that go for the polar ends. You have people that want to just be maxed out on space, or people that just don't need much space at all. And I think those were the majority. I would say over 50% of the users, I think, go for those two polar ends combined. So that leaves less than half in the middle. So they'll say, you know what? All right, we'll take a little bit of a loss, giving you guys 64 instead of 32. So I think it makes more sense from, a manufacturing and a business standpoint, more rather than like from a consumer standpoint. Because from a consumer standpoint, they're going to have people saying, all right, well, I want more than 16, but I don't need 64. Where's my 32? But in their eyes, they're getting double the storage for the same price that they would have at 32. So I think it's overall good all around, but it makes more sense, I think, from a business standpoint rather than a consumer standpoint. So that's just kind of my impression on the storage. Do you agree or do you disagree?
I absolutely agree, Bob. And then also, there's another difference is that the iPhone 6 Plus is $100 extra at every single level in forms of size than the iPhone 6. So, do you think that that will actually, sway some customers to stay with the iPhone 6 rather than the 6 Plus?
I think so, only because there's like it's kind of how we were initially. We didn't want the huge screen. And I'm sure there's some people that, they saw the whole, tilting thing that you can have a different UI, kind of like an iPad UI on the go. And even that, they're like, I just don't want a phone that big. I'd rather have a smaller phone and it's an extra $100. No, I'm sticking down to, the traditional size, I guess you could say. So yeah, I think that extra $100 is definitely going to make a difference to a lot of people. But then again, there's those people that want to have the plus phone. They want to just have the top dog, top of the line, brand new phone. And, there's going to be those people that want that. But so I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see a lot of plus models, but like we're going to see like kind of the polar ends. We're going to see a lot of the high end plus models and a lot of the low end non plus models, just the six. And there's going to be some scattering in between, obviously. But I think with Apple products, people tend to pick the polar ends. You have the quote unquote the high rollers that always just have to be maxed out, the best you can get. And you have the people that say, I just want something with an Apple logo on it. I don't need to have everything in the world, just something. And you have those two ends there. So that's something that I think is we're going to see here, but I could be completely wrong. Now, I guess in going a little bit back to tech specs, inside we have a new A8 processor, which like the 5S is completely 64-bit. That's awesome. We have a new M8 coprocessor, which they mentioned now can do altitude as well. So they can measure where you are at sea level, or if you're exercising, it can handle steps and, things like that. So it's going to be really nice and something we'll get into later. It's really cool to have that integrate with the iWatch. And they did all this and they made it thinner than the 5S, which is already only like 7 and change millimeters thin. So I think these ones break into the sixes, 6.x millimeters. I think the 6 Plus is like 7.1 or something. So very impressive. But one thing that I wish they would do is leave the thickness alone. The 5S is thin enough, and put more battery in there. Do you agree, or do you like to have the thinner phone?
Absolutely agree with you, Bob. I honestly feel that, especially when you get a bigger phone, because even the iPhone 6 is bigger than the iPhone 5S. So I would expect a bigger milliamp hour battery, because I can tell you right now, my days, it varies. There's times I can't make it home on one charge. Other days I'm good, so instead of having such a vague, basically on off relationship, I'd rather just have enough battery power to support the devices, and which is typically an argument on any device that comes out, whether it be a Android device or iOS device or even a Windows phone or anything like that. So yes, I honestly wish they beefed it up. It seems like they just basically stretched it out and made it thinner, because it's the same size battery that we currently have in the iPhone 5S. And another thing that I don't know if certain users will be basically swayed away. I've heard a lot of different comments on Twitter where a lot of people said that they didn't quite like the rounder edges, like say an iPhone 3G to 3GS era around that time, which I actually think it's fine. I don't think it's really a big deal. But what do you think? Do you think that that the rounder edges of the actual form factor will have an impact on someone buying it versus keeping the iPhone 5S that they currently have?
I know a lot of people they do prefer like that square design that the current 5S has. It almost seems like it's more industrial looking. I've always been a pretty big fan of that, which they've had since the 4. So I mean, they've had that design for quite some time. I think it's refreshing to see them change it. And especially because this isn't like an S series phone; it's a whole new thing. I think it's a good time to change the design up. And, with any design change, there's going to be people that don't like it. I mean, we both, me and Dante, and I'm sure a lot of you guys watching may think Yosemite looks awesome. But there's going to be people that say, why'd you have to go and mess with my OS 10? It looks great. I'm staying on Mavericks. I'm done. And they're going to be really, really upset about it. But no matter what you change a design to, whether it's physical or in software, there's just going to be people that flat out don't like it. Whether that's going to be enough to stop those people from just not buying the phone, I doubt it, because this is a pretty feature-filled phone, and let's be honest, a lot of people that want an iPhone, they could have had half the stuff packed in this phone, and they're probably still going to buy it just because people love their iPhones that much. So I think the design, personally, it looks really nice. Like I said, I really do like the square look that I currently have on my 5S, so I'd really have to get this one in my hands. Now, one thing that I'm seeing, and I'm not sure if I'm going to like it or not, because I did have a Galaxy Nexus, and it had a very similar feature to the new iPhone here, in that the power button is on the side. Do you think you're going to like that or not? Because I'm kind of skeptical about it.
Oh, I'm very skeptical about that because as soon as I saw that, the first thing I thought about was an Android device, because people who may or may not know that most Android devices, let's just say your Samsung Galaxy series, typically their power buttons are on the right-hand side of the handset. And I honestly like the power button being on the top because that's the way it's been this entire time and it hasn't
Yep.
changed. That I think maybe they only did that for being able to reach it, what with sitting in your hand. I would think that just sitting like this, since the screen is taller, that they were like, well, let's just go ahead and put it there. That way you don't have to actually reach up and, hit on top, because even with one hand I can reach it and it's just fine on the current iPhone 5S model form factor on the 4-inch screen. Now, with that, I think they honestly thought about the redesign only in favor because of that, because all the internal parts shouldn't make any difference on where they're placing a button, besides having the actual handling of the phone. So it may be something that we can just get used to. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'll like it right off the bat, but honestly, that's something very minor that you can get used to, because you got to realize some people were upset when they moved the headphone jack from the top to the bottom from the iPhone 4S to the iPhone 5. So that was another thing that, I just got used to it. And yes, I always known of it, to be at the top. Now plugging it into the bottom, it actually wasn't a big deal. So maybe it'll be the same thing with the power button rearranged on this particular two devices here.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, like I said, I'm still kind of skeptical about it. I mean, even when I had my Galaxy Nexus, I mean, it's not that it's not comfortable. I mean, it is comfortable to hit it with your thumb, just holding the phone. But like you said, it's just one of those things that you're just used to it being up there, and now it's changing. I think it's going to be for the better, though, to have the extra screen real estate. I think it'll be really nice. So that's pretty much all they announced for the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus. I mean, they actually zipped through it because they had more on their agenda. And so really quick, just to wrap up here with the iPhones, they go on pre-order on the 12th, which is 3 days from now, this upcoming Friday. They'll actually be shipping the 19th, which is next Friday, 7 days after that. And iOS 8 for all compatible devices, which is a lot of the iPod Touches, a lot of the iPhones, a lot of the iPads. That comes out 2 days before shipping day on the 17th. So
Right.
Apple's definitely rolling this stuff out pretty quick. It's not like we have a month waiting time. The Gold Master of iOS 8 is out. You can get it if you're resourceful. So go ahead and tell us what you guys think about the new iPhone 6. Dante, really quick, out of 10, what would you give it? Measuring it up against what you expected, things that you wanted to see, and maybe things that you didn't see out of it.
Performance wise and everything that I thought it would be, there's still a couple specs that we don't quite have yet, as far as like RAM or anything in any of the handsets. But honestly, for what I expected, I have to give it a 9.5 because I mean we already had the speculation over the sizes for a while now, and sometimes that kind of spoils a party. You know, when
Yeah.
there's been so many leaks and things like that. I wish it was like completely under wraps and like completely blew us away. I would have given it a perfect score of 10, but 9.5 because of honestly the 5.5-inch iPhone 6 Plus is, I mean, just the features of the orientation mode and the different spec bumps that you actually get with it, going from a 1334 by 750 screen to a 1920 by 1080 Retina HD screen. I mean, I think that that alone was enough to say, ooh, I think I might swing towards that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I would give it like a nine only because the one thing that I really, really wanted, like number one on my wish list, was more battery. And they didn't give that to us. And I know that there's a faster processor in there, there's bigger screens. I get why that they didn't do it, but I would have liked to be surprised. I would have liked to say, okay, we're giving you all this stuff. We're giving you a 5.5-inch screen with a 1080p resolution, and you get an extra 2 hours of battery life. That's something that I would have really liked to see. But they kind of kept it the same, which here's knocking on wood. Maybe we'll see that in a 6S or a 6S Plus, whatever they're going to call it. So Dante, very fair. I would say 9.5. I'm going to say 9, just because the battery to me is one thing. Like I'm always having to carry my charger around, and I wish I didn't have to do that because I know even like the Galaxy Note tends to have amazing battery life, and now this screen's about that same size, and I know there's huge differences between the phones, but I think that I would really like to see that extra battery life in there. So that said, I'm still definitely planning on getting this phone. Me and Dante are pretty much sold on the 6 Plus model. Probably a 64 gigabyte for me. I don't think I need to go 128 yet. I'm going to be one of those in betweeners. But with that said, I'm definitely sold on the phone, and I think we're both really going to enjoy it. And I think you guys are too. Let us know down in the comments if you plan on getting one, and if you do, which capacity, which model, and why. So moving on here, something very closely related is Apple's new Apple Pay, not to be confused with iPay. Dante, what exactly is Apple Pay?
Apple Pay, in a nutshell, is basically the way I can give it to you in a way that you could probably understand with certain programs is maybe like their version of almost like a PayPal service or something very similar to that. Basically, what's going to happen is it's going to have secure checkout with your devices, and this actually goes with the iWatch as well, and I'm sorry, the Apple Watch as well. And so basically what some of the features are is one touch checkout. There's no card number to enter, which is really good because that's how identity theft and things like that happen. Of course, and then there's also no need for the person to have an address, so that tied to you. So which to me, again, helps with security because these are information that you can pretty much find anywhere. And then also no information will be actually shared with the merchant. And also it's going to be launching on October of 2014. It's just to me a more secure way to check out with your handset without having to dig through your wallet and dig out cards and figure out which store you're at and things like that. And honestly, the security measure I think is a lot higher because of biometric thumb scanner that's already built into these handsets and iCloud and things like that. I think it's a lot harder to get someone's information off these. Now, it's not to say it's hack proof or anything like that, but just like anything, I think that's just a higher security measure. Of course, when you start thinking about some of the Black Friday things that were hit with maybe Target, and then there's actually another one that had just come up in recent news with Home Depot that was under a similar attack as Target was as well. I think it's really nice, especially with all the different carriers that they have on board with this. They say that Apple Pay actually works with some of the top 83% of credit card purchasers volume, currently out there. That's like American Express, Discover, Visa, some of these top, companies that actually deal with credit card transactions and things at different merchants and retailers. Bob, do you think this is a good thing and something that you would actually use?
Absolutely, because like me personally, I have 3 credit cards, and it's just gonna be so easy to just be able to whip out my phone, put my thumb on a thumbprint sensor, and just pay for it. It's just so much more secure. If you lose a credit card, like if it's in your car and someone takes it, or if you just drop it or something, it's really easy for someone to just use that card. I mean, you have to sign the back, which makes such a huge deal because it's not easy to forge a signature or anything. So I mean, it's not like a debit card. You don't even need to know a PIN. I mean, if you're lucky, the merchant will ask you for proper ID when you use the card. But there's so many times that they don't even ask for ID, and you could just go. And if they do ask you to sign, you just have to, and you can just sign away something. And there's no way to know that. So this is definitely going to be something that's a lot more secure. And I know there's a lot of Apple skeptics out there that are going to say, "Yeah, I'm going to trust a company with my credit card information that is the same company that all these celebrities had their photos leaked on iCloud and stuff." And you guys just have to understand it's something. And I've seen a couple people say that actually, on Twitter. And it's just apples and oranges, no puns intended, because we're talking about Apple here. Horrible joke, but anyway, it's just something completely different. I mean, that's something that wasn't, people hacking in directly to Apple servers and retrieving information. And we did talk about this last week in episode 28 of Tech Habit Weekly, but it's not like a direct attack like that. It's just as easy as someone getting your password and being able to use that stuff. But this is even more secure than that because all your credit card information, it's kind of like the thumbprint sensor. No one's been able to hack in there and retrieve like an image of someone's thumb. Apple has that stuff locked down in a special chip inside the phone that no other apps or anything can access. It's just specifically for that purpose. And it's not even stored like in a way that you would think. I mean, it's just completely secure. And I guess I can't say completely secure because there's always a way, but finding that way is going to be so difficult that it's next to impossible. I mean, like we were saying last week, anything is hackable. So we don't want to give you guys the impression that this is just the end all be all, that day one it's going to be absolutely perfect, because they do plan on rolling this out over time.
There will be updates.
Exactly, there will be some bug fixes and things, but I mean, Apple's a company that they're not going to release something until it's ready, maps excluded. So that said, one other thing that really piqued my interest, I never saw Apple going with an NFC radio in there. Were you surprised to see that?
Yes, and NFC, for some of you people who may or may not know what that is near field communication, meaning that the act of maybe taking your handset and maybe the device and just getting it close enough for that communication will go ahead and confirm that transaction. And which is good because a person like myself and even Terrell, I know that we both use our notes app like crazy. I mean, I got so many notes. I got folders with just notes and things like that. So if I could have digital receipts and things like that, I guarantee I would keep up with that stuff a lot better than paper. So just having that near field communication actually working your phone as well as the Apple Watch and things like that would be very nice if you could just go up and take your hand and go boop, and and everything's confirmed, it's with you, and you're good to go. And like Bob said, the security measures with that are pretty high. I mean, more likely it's almost not going to steal your phone and then be able to use that stuff. They still have to get in. And now, just to say that those features on there don't mean you can't have an unsecure iPhone. You can take your passcode off. You can take, you can not set up your, fingerprint scanner and all that stuff to recognize any of your thumbprints or fingerprints. And yes, then that will be unsecure. But I think that maybe with some of this, they will actually have some sort of authentication, maybe even require, hey, you need to have a passcode at least or something on your phone to be able to use that, to enable it or something like that. So, and that's just a security thing for, the consumers. And so I think it's very good that Apple finally got into the NFC range with these things. And I think that this is just going to just the beginning, where I think we're going to go a lot further with this as technology and time goes on.
Absolutely. And I mean, going into it, I mean, this is something that when the 5S came out and they just first came out with Touch ID, they made it clear that we still have places to go. Sure, it's cool that you can unlock your phone without having to type in your passcode every time, but that's literally just the extreme tip of the iceberg. They plan to do so much with Touch ID as the foundation. So, I mean, it's really exciting to think about where this is going to go in the next couple of years. I mean, when, we've talked about this, even if they, I think maybe 5 episodes ago, we talked about this, talking about CarPlay. If they can integrate Touch ID into CarPlay, when all you have to do is scan your, your thumb on your phone, have your mirrors automatically adjust because it knows how tall you are, have your stereo go to your favorite station, just to be able to have like that ridiculous amount of stuff tied to just a thumbprint that no one else can access is incredible. And I think we will get there eventually. But just getting back to Apple Pay, just some of the things that make it really convenient is that there's no credit card number that you have to enter. And they made it clear that even buying online is going to be a lot easier, not even going to a physical merchant and having to swipe your card. Which, by the way, in the video they did the whole swipe the card thing. Oh, it didn't work, I have to do it. There's plenty of times where Touch ID doesn't work the first time either. So there's going to be that thing where instead of having to do this twice, you're going to have to put your thumb on there, wait, try again, and then it'll work, maybe with a different finger or something. That stuff is still going to happen, but regardless, it's still going to be a much faster transaction. So there's no credit card. number to enter if you're shopping online, things like that. There's no form you have to fill out with all your shipping address. I mean, they don't even need any of that stuff. It's going to be, it's kind of like Apple is almost sort of a middleman. Like Apple's the one that's going to know the information about, you, not necessarily the merchant. So there's just going to be less room for intrusion, I guess you could say. There's no information, like I said, shared with the merchant or anything like that. So it's going to be really convenient, I think. And like I said, this whole thing with Touch ID, Apple Pay is definitely something that they've really wanted to work with Touch ID, have Touch ID be the foundation for, and we're going to see that delivered here. Now, Dante, I know they said that by the end of the year they're going to have some places actually have this. I think they even mentioned by name like McDonald's be able to use your phone. I know they mentioned like things like Macy's, some stores like that. Do any one of these stores that they mentioned immediately pique your interest, or is there like a specific kind of a store that you really hope to see this in?
Honestly, there's not really a specific store I would like to actually see this in. If I could say, if it was like you said, like a Macy's or anything like that, I think it's just that more people getting on board, basically letting it be more universal to where if I go get gas and I'm like, boop, there it is, instead of basically just making the convenience of my experience a lot faster and a lot easier than putting in my car and their stupid reader doesn't work, or going in talking to the merchant person and telling them I'm on pump 3. Which one's pump 3? Well, the gray BMW 2-door sitting out there. Which one? There's 2 of them. Is just things that make your buying experience easier, to me. And like you said, with Apple being basically like the middleman, they will handle just the transaction part of it, but your merchant is just, hey, you're buying this, and then to me, it's just a lot more secure, a lot faster way to check out. And, we've all been in a grocery store or something behind that old lady fumbling between her checkbook. And we're like, man, who still has a check, and it has run through the routing number and account number, and it goes around that stupid thing, and it never works the first time. And she may have only had 3 items or something. And you're just like, oh my gosh, and that's why, in that regard. So I think it's a very good thing, and hope it gets rolled out into a lot more different locations, and a lot more people are actually more aware of security measures and would actually educate themselves about taking security measures for yourself to prevent intrusion and things like this, because things can happen no matter what we've done before, stored passwords or whatever. If you just remember them, whatever, people have found ways to get through. So just having better security measures for yourself, I think the NFC integration in between this and using Apple Pay would actually work very, very well for consumers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shoot out a question at you. And this is something that even I don't really know, so I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think that Apple Pay is going to be the beginning of an actual wallet replacement as compared to like a wallet supplement? Because what I'm thinking about right now is, with Apple Pay, maybe give it a year or 2 down the line, are you going to have to actually carry around your wallet? Because say, for example, you're driving, your taillight's out, a cop pulls you over. Are you one day maybe going to be able to have your driver's license tied to your phone in the whole Apple Pay system somehow, or a passbook or something? Or do you think that you'll always need to have these kinds of, license, things like that around? Or maybe even if you go to like an alcohol store and you want to buy something and you have to be 21, you have to show ID. Could you maybe one day do that with your phone? Or are you still going to always have to carry around your license with you?
I think to an extent we'll always have to carry around a wallet for some things. I mean, perfect example, especially with the whole getting pulled over. I was pulled over probably about 2 months ago, and just like the commercial with Geico, that's the insurance company I have. I did not have my updated card on me. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, hey, got the app. So pulled up the app and gave it to him. And he kind of looked at it. He's like, oh, one of those guys. He was an older gentleman, so it made sense. But it worked. He took it, and there was no discrepancy. I didn't have to like show up in court to just prove I had insurance or something. So, but it worked. But in that regard, I feel like that it's too much of a liability to have that much information here. And once it's gone, or you leave it at the house or something, then that may be a huge flaw in yourself to lose that. Because just think, if I've done this plenty of times. I've ran down to Taco Bell real quick with my wallet, but left my phone here for some unforeseen. So in between, not even half a mile or whatever it is, if I had gotten pulled over, I would have had no information on me, no money, no nothing. And that would have been very, very bad. So I feel like in certain regards, having this thick thing full of papers and cards and whatever, will probably never completely go away, only because I don't think people will get too comfortable with knowing that your information is stored on a server or something somewhere, you know, because what if they just say, hey, give me your account name, and then you will let you put in your password, and all your stuff comes up. Well, it's got to be stored somewhere, you know. So it's just one of those things. I think we'll always still have to carry around at least some sort of form of picture ID and some sort of form of physical payment for something.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's kind of like the whole cash thing. I mean, it's always a good idea. I mean, this is something I'm terrible at because I never have cash on me. And there's plenty of times where
Oh
I'm like, all
man,
right, I need to start carrying at least 10
yeah.
bucks just for
Swiping a
sometimes.
card for 52
Yeah.
cents is pretty ridiculous, but
Yep.
this dude's guilty of it plenty of times.
Oh yeah. So it's kind of like it's that. It's just kind of the cash thing. I mean, it's always a good idea to have a copy on you, even maybe like with your whole driver's license thing. Maybe one day you won't need to carry it around with you in terms of having it in your wallet all the time. Maybe you'll be able to leave it in your car as a backup in case you need it or something like that. Maybe you don't won't necessarily need to have it on you 100% of the time, but that's just one of those things where I mean, I don't know if at any length of time in the anywhere near foreseeable future if we can go to an all digital cloud connected world, because we still do need, at least for, like I said, the foreseeable future, physical copies of things like a driver's license or proper identification or cash, whatever it is, for those weird, little things that you may need them for every once in a while. I think it's going to be a very, very long time, if ever, that kind of stuff goes away. So that said, though, Apple Pay, in the immediate future, in the next year or so, has a lot of potential, and I think it's going to be something that a lot of people really like, including myself, and what it sounds like you too, Dante. So, guys, let us know what you guys think about Apple Pay down below in the comments. Is it something that, if you have an Android phone, you're going to go out and get an iPhone for? Because, and I've said this in the past, and with the whole health thing that we've talked about the last couple episodes, I don't think many people, many merchants would trust an Android device with that kind of information because of all the different, viruses and just general things that are out there that exist on the Android platform that don't exist on the iPhone. So the iPhone, I mean, no one up to this point has gotten anywhere near this kind of, support from merchants or anything like that to use their device to have things like your credit card information, your health information. That's all very confidential stuff. And so far, Apple's the only one that's going to make it happen. So I think that it's going to we're going to start to see people that maybe they had an iPhone or then they went to an Android phone because of the customization, but now they're saying, okay, I'd rather have my credit cards and stuff like that be secure and I can use them on my phone rather than having a different, ROM on my phone. There's going to be some people that really outweigh that. I think we're going to see some people switch over from Android because of things like this that really I just don't think will ever exist on the Android platform, just because there's so many vulnerabilities on the Android platform that aren't there in the Apple platform. So tell us what you guys think about that as well down below in the comments. And really the last section of the keynote today, and the thing that kind of blew everybody away, it finally happened. We do now officially know that an Apple Watch, not an iWatch, an Apple Watch does exist. So Dante, what are some of the key components or some of the key features of this finally brought to life Apple Watch?
Well, where do you begin? I mean, just with the integration of having this thing here was already huge to me, only because we had talked about this last episode about the probability of the wearable even coming in, and I was at 50%, only because there had been so much speculation, but not really any hard evidence. I mean, the most that we saw was like some patents and some website, like some web domains and stuff being kind of bought up. That was it. There wasn't any like early leaks of anything. Everything that I've seen, even the concepts, didn't look anything like this. One thing that I really, really do like about this is the overall design of the Apple Watch. It is very nice. One watch that actually basically got me into that was the Moto G. The Moto G is a very, very well designed piece of technology, and I think still think it's awesome. But I think that instead of making it so, I don't want to say techie, they made it more natural. Basically, it looks like a normal watch, but just has all the right tech components in it that will make it a wearable and give you that whole digital edge. The exact technology on it is actually really nice, like they showed in the keynote, where they were using the Apple Maps and things on it, and they actually were doing directions, like if you were walking and how long it would take to actually get there. I thought that was very nice, because just in case, like, if you're just driving, you got your hand up here, it'd be nice just to do this instead of pulling out your phone and trying to, look at it and being very, very distracted. All you have to do is turn, flip your wrist and just keep going, and you're good to go. I think that'd be very, very nice for that adaptation of it. Also, the various colors and bands designs of it was really, really huge. I was actually very surprised with how customizable that thing was out of the box. I was thinking like updates and updates and updates will come, hey, there's a new band, there's a new color. It's like they unrolled the red carpet on this one. It's like it is so customizable to basically anything that you basically want it to be. Another thing is high quality materials. When I buy something that is in a premium market like that, I'm going to expect some high quality materials, and some of the metals and things on it look so nice that you can't even distinguish it from basically a watch that you would just get at any high end retailer or jewelry store. Another thing is that it actually uses a flexible retina display inside the watch. Also, app developers will use what's called WatchKit to develop their apps and get different things like different notifications for certain apps and things that Apple it just basically have the sandbox for, but and then the developers have the design. They'll use the WatchKit to go ahead and make those apps and make things more workable and customizable for yourself. A lot of the different faces that they have on it are just astronomical. I like the fact of the digital crown and that the fact that it actually scrolls up and down and is an actual physical button. I mean, there's a lot of different things on there. A lot of things that are actually geared towards fitness. Now with this, Bob, it has really changed my perspective on wearables. Has it changed yours at all?
Kind of. I mean, it's definitely more than I thought it was going to be. Like you said, they kind of unrolled the red carpet with this. Now, when I thought of an iWatch or an Apple Watch or something, I would think that it's going to be kind of more like an iPhone. Like they don't really let you swap anything out of it. They don't have different back plates for phones or anything. So I really did not expect to see, interchangeable wrist straps and all that kind of fun stuff. But they pulled through. I mean, they have everything from, gold, like pure gold, wristbands and leather and all that really high quality premium material, all the way down to just some plastic or even maybe like some smart cover ish material on the wristbands. So they kind of have everything in between, kind of whatever your price range is. And they also even included two different models of the thing. They have two different sizes of it. So I think that's really going to help too with people that want this but don't want to spend a ton of money on it. It's going to be nice to have those different customizations that maybe you can buy it cheap up front with just just a little plastic wristband. Then over time you could probably upgrade to a more premium wristband. If you find yourself really liking it and wanting it to really last them in any kind of condition, then you can find yourself maybe in a couple months or a year or something upgrading to a newer band, something that's maybe a little more high quality, made of metal or gold or something like that. But in terms of overall features, it does look really nice. It has a whole, completely different UI, especially with that little crown thing, like you said, that they have. It definitely looks very interesting. The screen is touchscreen, so it's not like you have to rely completely on the little crown to scroll it. It is touchscreen. You can interact with it. They have custom emojis. It's kind of like how on iOS 8 you have that keyboard where it'll predict as like that predictive text. That's on the watch as well, so you can, and of course, Siri's built right into it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here to like about this watch. Me, myself, personally, I'm still not really a watch kind of guy. I mean, as cool as this is, and Apple's definitely the one that did this right. I mean, this, I believe, very deeply is the watch that the industry's been waiting for. And so early 15, we'll see if that comes to fruition. And I'm sure that it will for the people that want a smartwatch. I'm sure this is going to be the one to get. But for people like me that don't really wear a watch, I mean, I haven't worn a watch at all since I was maybe 10, and that was like 13 years ago. So I would definitely like to try it. I'd like to get it in my hands. I'd really like to wear it for a week. But to keep wearing it after that, I just don't think I could justify what this thing is going to cost, because I just don't think I'd wear it every day. When I woke up in the morning, my first instinct wouldn't be to let me get my watch. It just wouldn't be. I mean, I've gotten so accustomed to just checking my phone for the time or using my phone for everything that I don't think I would really get the full benefit of what this watch would offer me. Do you think that you could use this thing on a daily basis for months on end, or do you think you're kind of in my boat where you're just more accustomed to just having a phone?
I think I'm just more accustomed to having a phone at the current moment. Like I said, even as interesting as the wearable whole market is, especially with the Apple Watch, I still see myself in that category. Even if I was in health and fitness, that might sway me a different way because of having the three different styles with just having like your regular watch, the sport, and the regular and the edition, which is more of like a high end look, more business look, to it. I've seen a lot of different things with it, and it's very customizable. I think it looks great. I think it's a very good product, but for myself, I just don't think I'm quite there yet, especially with a price tag of 349.99
To
and
start.
to start. Now, another question I have is one thing that they didn't touch on, and I know they've got a little while before it actually hits retailers and in the Apple Store and everything, is they never talked about the battery life on that thing. And I was wondering, do you think they did that purposely because they're still working out some kinks because it's not going to launch yet? And then also, what do you feel about that like MagSafe-ish charger on the back of the actual iWatch?
I think the MagSafe isk or esque-ish charger is a really nice addition. That just means that, I mean, because think about it, this thing has to be life proof. I mean, it has to be water, at least water resistant, maybe if
Hmm.
not waterproof. It has to be able to stand up to all these conditions. You don't want water or dust getting in anywhere. So why have a port when you could just use inductive charging?
Right.
So it makes perfect sense as to why they did it, and I'm sure it's going to work as well as they advertise it to. I mean, I've been using MagSafe on the MacBook for as long as I've had this MacBook, and I don't think I've ever met a person that says I hate this MagSafe adapter. I mean, it's genius. I mean, think
Yes.
if you trip over it, it comes out, it charges, and that's it. I mean, it does what it's advertised to do. So I think especially for a watch that you don't want water getting in anywhere, you don't want dust getting in
Or
anywhere.
sweat.
Or sweat, exactly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using this as a fitness device. I mean, you're going to be sweating if you're, on a treadmill at the gym or something, or even just going running outside. You want this thing to try to be life proof, and so by having that inductive charging, it makes perfect sense that you don't have an exposed port in the side of your device. And I mean, it's really smart that they did that rather than have a port with like a little plastic cover that you could put back in there and cover it up or something. This just makes a lot more sense. Now, in terms of why they didn't mention the battery life, that's kind of hard to say. Personally, I just don't think it's quite ready. In my opinion, I just don't think they even have the software completely optimized yet. It's probably using more battery than it needs to right now because, like I said, it's still not even coming out for a couple months
Mhm.
yet. So, personally, I just don't think it's quite where it needs to be, and they're probably not comfortable with giving out numbers because if I know Apple, and I think I tend to know Apple pretty well, if they had battery life that they were at all proud of, they would announce it and they would make a pretty big deal out of it. They would say, "We're giving you all this stuff, and it's going to last X amount of hours."
Right.
Huge applause. And
Yeah.
so, because they didn't do that, I think it's just not ready. So, do you agree with that, or do you think maybe there's another reason?
I completely agree. At first I was a little skeptical. I was thinking, well, maybe, since the battery is, it's a watch, so, watch batteries are different from phone batteries. So I'm like, well, okay, even though it has a display, will it be, feasible to say, hey, it's got 1,000 milliamp hour battery or something like that? And we're like, wait a minute, because of the scale that most people actually know of is like within the 20s or maybe 18 up to like 2,600 milliamp hours or something like on a regular handset device. Now, with this, another thing that I do actually like about it, because the first thing I thought about was it's something on your hand can get bumped and scratched a lot easier than anything else. So first thing I was thinking of was the actual sapphire screen and being scratch resistant and things like that. And I'm glad that they included that. That the sapphire crystal display would be scratch resistant and things like that, because I could definitely see someone banging it up against a table or
Oh, yeah.
something very very easily. And actually, I know that that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people that I know who wear watches don't wear their watches all the time because it's an expensive watch and they would scratch it or whatever. So, needless to say, I think it's overall a very good design. I don't think it just fits my personal life. It is very nice. Like I said, if anyone wanted to gift it to me or something like that, oh, I'd definitely try it. But it'd probably be still one of those things I'd have to remember to put on.
Yep, exactly. And I feel the exact same way as I said. And so that's one reason why I'm kind of skeptical. That's why I never even believed that Apple was going to do a smartwatch because I just don't think it appeals to nearly as many people that have an iPhone. So I mean, if they're going to spend billions of dollars on R&D for this thing, I would think they'd want to sell it to everybody. And I just don't think everybody is interested in a watch. So for something that took as much engineering as this did and is continuing to do because it's still not ready, I'm really skeptical about how it's going to sell. I mean, I'm kind of nervous about it. So, that's pretty much all we have about the Apple Watch at the moment. They didn't mention any specifics in terms of specs. You know, how much RAM does this thing have? Is it going to rely exclusively on your phone for any kind of an internet connection? These are the questions that we still
Hmm.
don't really know. And you know, once we do find them out, of course, we'll be able to tell you guys. And right now, they're at WWDC. I mean, there's a couple on display and everything. I'm sure they're in glass boxes. People probably can't touch them. But you know, as basically what I'm trying to say is, as soon as we know something, we'll definitely be talking about it here on Tech Habit Weekly, as I'm sure
Yeah.
the thousands of other Apple podcasts will be doing on their respective podcasts. But that's pretty much all we have on the Apple iWatch. So I guess I'll ask the same question to you, Dante, as I did for the iPhone. On a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of what you expected, what actually happened, things that it didn't get that you wanted it to, 1 out of 10, what do you think you'd give it?
On this one, I'm gonna go ahead and probably give it like an 8, only because it was huge because I didn't think it was gonna happen. I was like, 50% it may or may not because of, like I said, the leaks and different things that happen with like the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. I give it an 8 only because personally, and it's very very biased, is it didn't live up to my expectations because I wanted this to take a non-wearable, person who doesn't typically wear a watch to say, whatever, I don't care, take my money, I need that. And it still isn't quite there yet. And I'm kind of concerned with with the same concern that you have that, if they spend all this money, there's got to be like a little bit more. Does it rely on your phone exclusively? Will there be some sort of a, SIM card or something you can put in to give it LTE, to not have to rely on a device? Or will there be some sort of deal where maybe part of your data plan can be actually partitioned for your iWatch, but will still require maybe one, another SIM card, but I just don't know how that would work. I don't know. I don't know. Will there be some sort of a tethering thing or something you can do? Matter of fact, I'm not even sure if they say anything about Wi-Fi with that thing.
I don't think they did.
I don't think so, but that's just another question. It's like, well, how does that work? I don't want it to be, okay, I can only get directions when I have Wi-Fi or, something like that, or I'm tethering, because typically those are the questions that, are supplied is how am I getting out to the internet? So
Yep.
still a lot of time, to see what's going to happen here. And we'll definitely see in the near future. And as soon as, like you said, as soon as we know something, we're definitely let our general public know on Tech Habit Weekly as best we can and as quickly as we can as that news rolls in.
Yeah, and one thing that on a little closing note here, one last thing I want to mention is that this is completely different from something like Android Wear, because Android Wear is a wearable platform, whereas Apple is making this specifically to be a watch platform. On Google you have things like Google Glass. I mean, they're probably going to have different articles of, I'll call them clothing in the coming years. They have watches, and so it's kind of a general OS to fit many different, like once again, articles of clothing, whereas this is specifically a watch. So once again, a terrible pun. It's kind of apples and oranges, when it comes to Android Wear. They both want to achieve the same basic kinds of things, but it's how they're going to do them that really ends up making all the difference. So it's for me, it's hard to even give it a number because I just don't think I know enough about it to give it a solid number. But I'd have to agree with Dante. It's probably like an 8. I think for the people that do want this kind of a device, that, like I said, this is probably going to be the one that they've been waiting for and the one that they're going to get. Now it depends how deep their pockets are. If they want to go all out and be like a high roller and get like the gold with the leather and with XYZ, or if they're going to be somewhere in the middle, or if it's going to be how, kind of like I said with the iPhones, how there's kind of the polar opposites, I think make up the majority of the sale. If we're going to see that same thing on the Apple Watch, that I really don't know. But if I had to give it a number, I think I'd probably agree with Dante around like an 8-ish. And once we see, more of these specific questions that we have answered, we'll be able to give it more of a fair number, I think, at
Mm-hmm.
that point, based on how it connects to your phone. If it does, what does it connect to? Is it Bluetooth, or is there some kind of a different connection there? Maybe like an iBeacon going on or something.
Right.
It's really hard to say. And then,
Now, one more thing just to add there to everything you were saying, I was just thinking about this while you were talking, is, I didn't, we see apps and things that were on there, and it's like you said, completely redesigned UI. I mean, it's like in a real exploded view. I mean, there's not really like a grid layer to it, it's just kind of
yeah,
all over the place, and which may or may not be a good thing. But one other thing is, I didn't hear anything about any sort of storage options.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's
nothing.
if there's apps, there needs to be storage. So I
Hmm.
don't know. Is there something, they said 349, like that's the base price. So that's where it starts. I understand that. But, is there something that maybe with that, with like the bigger model or something, will there be more space or something? I mean, I don't know. To me, it almost seems like this thing needs to be completely custom because who's to say that the sports guy, doesn't want the plastic band but wants huge storage because he's running all the time or something and wants to have all, his music. And then I didn't know if there was. I don't think there's an audio port on there. Is there?
I didn't think so.
I
No, I
don't
didn't
think
see
so.
one.
I know there's an
It's kind
external
of the
speaker.
I think it'd be kind of the same thing as, if you had like a charger port on it. You don't want any exposed parts that could
Yeah, that
wander
makes
inside the
sense.
device. So I don't
So
I don't know.
unless maybe you can do it over Bluetooth. I know a lot of Bluetooth
Possibly.
buds and things like that are becoming a lot more popular. So we'll definitely see what happens with it. Honestly, I just think the material itself is very very high quality, and that's the main thing. Even the sports one, because the sports one has quote unquote psychedelic colors. A lot of loud fluorescent yellows and things like that. But when you see that, typically you associate that with something that's cheap. When you see like a loud lime green or something, you would think that's cheap, but they all still have that crystal sapphire display. So scratch resistance, basically will probably withstand most punishment that most people would actually do against banging it against things. So we'll keep an eye on it and we'll definitely, see what happens with it.
Yeah, with storage, I would think that if you want to listen to your music, I mean, a lot of people, I would think they'd probably kind of streamed from a phone. But then again, if you're running, you don't want to have your phone on you. The whole point of this is to be kind of an
Right.
independent thing.
I got
But
two things instead of, you
yeah,
know.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of like overall apps, I would think the apps would be pretty small only because a lot of the file size in the apps that we see nowadays on the iPhone and the iPad are because of, the graphics. I mean, there's like little different images that are all contained within there that it needs to load the actual user interface. But because this is such a small screen, you have smaller resolutions, which equals basically smaller file sizes. So I think the app sizes will be nothing close to what we see, like on the iPhone where you have a couple 500 megabyte apps here and there. On the iWatch or the Apple Watch rather, it's probably going to be an average of like a megabyte or two, I would say. So if there is any kind of onboard storage, they'll probably say, all right, we'll give you 8 gigabytes for your music. You'll probably want to stream it from something else. But if you don't, maybe here's a 16 gigabyte model where you can have 8 gigs of music plus eight for whatever else. So
Right.
it's
So
really hard
maybe
to
so maybe the
say.
watch will be kind of used almost like you were saying, like streaming from your phone. So maybe you can just run, but you got it playing through Bluetooth from your phone, and you can use that to switch tracks or something. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, that's all I can really think of. But then again, are you plugging into your phone and got say your ear pods on, but then switching tracks on? That's something I'm just not sure about. But I'm sure all those questions will be answered here in the near future.
Yeah. Yeah, right now it's just kind of too early. I mean, we saw like a preview of it and that's about it. I mean, we know it
Right.
exists now. That's about what we got out of today. We know that it exists and we got a few of the key features, but how these features are going to integrate with our current technology, we know nothing about. So, like I said, we'll definitely let you guys know as soon as we know more about this. And that was pretty much the keynote. That was, kind of the big highlights, the big things that were announced today. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn it over to our tech treats of the week. Now, if you guys don't know what this segment is, it's the tastiest, most tantalizing part of the show where we take a piece of tech, whether it's hardware, software, Apple, non-Apple, that we've used maybe the past week or two, month or so, and something we found that is just awesome, that's made our lives better. Dante, go ahead and kick us off with your tech treat.
My tech tree is actually called Genius Scan PDF Scanner. Now, basically, and I wish I was a little more prepared because I was actually updating my phone right before this, but basically, this app actually saved my life in school, and I'm going to try to see if I can get this through my iCloud backup in just a second. But um, basically, what happened was I needed a document that I had already turned in. I needed it signed, and I didn't quite have the material there. So I was like, well, I can kind of recreate that with a blank document. Well, I had that document sitting in front of me, and I was like, man, I just need to scan it some sort of way. And no, I didn't have a scanner because basically I didn't want that to happen again. Like basically what got me in that boat was the person lost my work. So I was like, okay. So I took that app, and here we go. I'll try to get this real quick. I took that app and basically I took a picture of my document sitting right there on my desk. And I was like, well, this is stupid. I'm just taking a picture of it, so am I just gonna send myself a picture, because if that's the case, I'm pretty sure college would be a lot easier. So basically, I'll grab a piece of paper here, just a second. And the interesting thing about this is the scale. And what I mean by that is the actual paper size. And I have it. All right, it's downloaded here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this, and the interface is very, very simple. I mean, as soon as you open it up, it just says no documents, because you can actually store documents on your phone as well, like use the internal storage as like a hard drive. So I'm going to go to photo, or pick the camera app here, and I'm going to sit this back and take a picture of my shoulder rehabilitation paper for tearing my shoulder. So one
Sounds
cool
painful.
thing is this here, is meaning I can actually drag this to the correct size of the paper, even if there's like bends in it or anything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and stretch this across all the way, basically have my whole document highlighted here. You can tell that because there's a border around it. I'm going to hit use. So what it's going to do is enhance that. And what it did was it pulled all the whites up higher and even the blacks even deeper. So now it looks
Wow.
like an actual physical piece of paper instead of a picture, because it was horrible lighting just now. I mean, that picture was dark that I just took. So then you can actually there's a share button down here at the bottom. You hit the share button, and then you can send this through Dropbox or Box and Evernote. You can even send this through an FTP server. You can fax it right from here. You can put it in Google Drive, OneNote, even OneDrive that was formerly the SkyDrive, and a bunch of different ways to do that. And it says that, and there's different formats. You can actually do it in JPEG format or PDF. Well, most people use PDF. So I can export that in PDF and send it to my Dropbox or something. And then by the time I get that, it looks literally just like this, and it's the proper scale. So you can literally make a physical copy from a picture, that you actually use on your phone. And that's what I use Genius Scan for. Matter of fact, I even
Wow.
took it a step further, and I didn't sign my document. So luckily, having a MacBook, I went into opened the PDF document in preview, and it was already sitting on my desk, and the blank one. So after I filled in the fields that I need to fill in, I actually went into the signatures part when I annotation. I can never say that word right, but and actually pulled up my signature and stamped it right on there, saved it again, and sent it. And now it was like I physically signed that paper. So it was awesome. Now here's the thing: I believe I got this in the App Store when it was free. I'm not sure if it actually costs anything. It was free when I got it, so I'm not sure if yeah, okay. Yes, Terrell says it is actually free. So yeah, like
Get
I said,
it.
it's a, oh my gosh. And honestly, and I've used different apps like this, at a point or two in my life, and this is probably the simplest layout for it, because you literally just snap. It enhances it itself, and then you can take it a step further. You can either put no enhancement on it here, black and white, or color. So if you want it to actually be in color, you can actually hit that, and it'll colorize it for you. So it's really however you want to scan it. You can scan it in full color, or you can scan it in black and white. Most people do black and white, but yeah, very, very nice. I mean, you can even do Wi-Fi sharing. There's even a deal in there for the documents and your uploads and everything. You can even tag it with different tags to say maybe work documents or, something like that to keep everything organized. It is a very, very handy little pocket tool just in case you need to, make a copy of something like right there. If you literally just have one piece of paper and like, oh man, it's the only copy I have of this. Okay, scan it real quick. Boom, boom, boom. It's in the correct scale and everything. Send it to yourself or Dropbox or Google Drive or something like that. Now you have a physical copy. You let that thing go. Something ever happens. Hey, I can print myself another copy of it right there. So check it out. Genius Scan, PDF scanner, free in the Apple App Store. Very, very nice.
That is an awesome texture. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to be downloading that. There's a couple times throughout my college career I really could have used that. People saying, "Oh, I wasn't there that class. Could you send me that sheet that I didn't get today?" I can't because I only have one copy. I'm not near a
Exactly.
scanner, so
That's how it
yeah.
happened. I mean, I lost my paper, and I'm like, no. So yeah, but it worked out. So
Awesome. Yeah, guys, go ahead and definitely get that app. It's called Genius Scan PDF scanner. Definitely a really nice app and something that it's one of those things that you never really expect that you're going to need, but when you have it, you're like the king of the town. So definitely an awesome tech treat. My tech treat is definitely a lot more laid back. This is for you, Saturday time wasters. I've had some nostalgia lately, and in the past, I've done a tech treat kind of similar to this, except it was a different platform. What I want to be showing you guys today is actually something I've done a video on like years ago on my channel. You may be able to find it. This is a Mac Nintendo 64 emulator. It's called 60force. And with this, I've downloaded GoldenEye ROM, and I do own the actual official cartridge from way back in the day, so I'm not really concerned about piracy or anything like that. Very classic game. And one thing that I did that I guess this can also be kind of a part two of my tech treat is I went to Amazon and I typed USB N64 controller, and what do you think I found? A USB Nintendo 64 controller. So it works right out of the box with Mac, Windows. You just plug it in, map the controls, and you're all set. So what I'm going to do here really quick is share my screen with you guys. So right here we just have the emulator, pretty basic stuff. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to Open Recent, and right here I do have the GoldenEye ROM pulled up right here. So we're just going to open that, and it'll take it a second. But here's GoldenEye. Now, I have noticed a few, at times when there's a lot of stuff going on, there can definitely be a drop in frames.
Drop in frames, yeah.
The sound can sometimes not be great, but that is definitely depending on what ROM you pick. A game like this where there's, a lot of people shooting at you, decently big environments for the time, you can definitely get some lag. But overall, it does a very good job. You can see right here, I'm not sure exactly how else this is going to come out in the final version, but on my screen, this is, probably full frame rate right here. So it looks really good. Unfortunately, I can't full screen it. This is as big as it gets. So, I mean, that's just the native resolution that we worked with back in the day. It's kind of disgusting, right? But a lot of you guys that have played the N64 or had one growing up, this is definitely going to be something really, really fun and enjoyable for you. So let's go ahead and try to cap this guy. Stop crouching. This controller I think was about 15 bucks, and sometimes the analog can be really not great. It's hard to move at times, but
wow.
I feel that the more that I wear it in, it's going to get better.
Huh.
But I'm sure this is bringing back memories for a lot of you guys out there that are even close to my age.
Hours and hours spent on that thing.
Overall, it does a really good job. And like I said, it does kind of depend on the game, but right here it's been running pretty close to just absolute full frames per second. So overall, a very nice little app, and I'm not sure if they have a Windows version. I think this particular one is Mac only. So if you built yourself a Hackintosh, or if you have a legitimate Mac and you're feeling nostalgic about your N64, then by all means, it's a great emulator. I know when I got it, I'm pretty sure I was forced to pay for it. And like I said, I got this a while ago. I made a video on my channel. But it looks like on the website now you can download it and at least play it without having to pay for it. But I don't think it'll let you like save or some things like that. So you can at least try it. Then if you like it, feel free to donate to the developer, and then you can get yourself a copy of it that you can actually save games and stuff like that. So overall, a really nice emulator. And Dante, I'm not sure if you ever had a Nintendo 64.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you know how many hours I lost of my life and brain cells on hearing like that. That was like music to my ears when you were playing on 4-player, because that was, to me, that was like, and I know it wasn't the very first multiplayer thing, but like to me, I think it did the multiplayer the best sitting in front of one TV, having 4 players, looking at, one screen chopped up into 4 boxes. And GoldenEye was literally my go-to. It was in between that and like Star Fox 64 and Mario 64 and stuff like that. That was crazy. But yeah, I have a lot of fond memories of playing GoldenEye, especially grabbing the golden gun and being able to get those memories back without having to actually own the console, and being able to have the actual full-fledged controller, because I have a PS2 controller with a USB adapter to it, and it works really well. I was playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas with that thing, and I loved it, and it worked just fine. And yeah, that's a really good tech tree. Something you can just lay back and and bring back some memories. You've got that buddy who, yeah, I used to whoop you back in the day. And you're like, okay, pull up a seat. We can pull it up right now. And not have to get out all the cords and power cord and AV cord, and it looks
Yep.
horrible and it's all composite and So, but yeah, that's a good tech treat, man. I really like that. I'll be. I mean, I actually already have that emulator. Matter of fact, you know what? I don't know where I got it from, or you might have told me about it. I'm not sure, but yeah, I do actually have that, and I've only got one game for it, and it's Star Fox 64.
There you go.
So, but it's good stuff.
Oh yeah, and it's good to be able to just bring it up on one of my monitors and have, Twitter going over here and stuff and just kind of go back and forth between playing GoldenEye and Twitter and stuff
Yeah.
without having to break it. Because my Nintendo 64 actually died. It doesn't output video anymore. So rather than having to buy a new console, this is a pretty close alternative, especially when you get, the pretty darn close to, the actual controller here. So it's definitely fun to waste some time with, like I said, be nostalgic, download some ROMs, of course, of games you already have. Of course, now, these games are like 10 megs. It's insane.
Right.
They're just so small. But yeah, so that's my tech treat. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up episode 29 of Tech Habit Weekly. Thank you guys very much for joining us for 29 delightful episodes. We're about to hit 30, and I think I don't know the date of the exact first show, but we've definitely covered a wide range of tech in the 29 episodes that we've done. So if you guys like the show, feel free to give it a thumbs up. We really appreciate your support and help keep the show going. Of course, if you have any suggestions, comments, concerns, questions, we do have a comment section right down there, or if you're watching live somewhere over here that you can post to. We do take your guys' feedback really seriously. We do the show for you, so we want to make this show as pleasurable for you to watch as possible. And you guys come by every week that we do it, and you guys seem to like it. So, but that said, it can always be improved. So, Dante, once again, thank you for joining me for 29 miraculous episodes. Go ahead and tell the kind folks where they can see you.
Basically, you can find me at twitter.com at KC Nightmare, and also on my YouTube channel at Dante D. Harris, and of course 1p4t.com. And also you can find Terrell Clark there as well, our producer of this show. And very good stuff. Appreciate the support and comments, questions, and concerns, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Word to your motherboard.
And word to your motherboard.